The wedding photographer's revenge. She said I was just the photographer when she fired me 3 weeks before her wedding. Little did she know I had captured something that would change everything. I'm a 32-year-old professional wedding photographer, and I need to tell you about the most satisfying case of karma I've ever witnessed. It started 6 months ago when Madison and Derek hired me for their dream wedding. $8,000 for a full-day package, engagement shoot, and wedding album. Madison was one of those brides who treated wedding planning like a military operation. Color-coded spreadsheets, vendor meetings scheduled down to the minute, and a Pinterest board with 2,847 pins titled, "My Perfect Day." Derek seemed like a nice guy. Quiet, successful finance guy who just nodded along with whatever Madison wanted. During our initial consultation, she did all the talking while he checked his phone. Red flag number 1, but their check cleared, so I minded my business. The engagement shoot was in October. We met at this scenic park Madison had scouted. She'd brought 3 outfit changes and a ring light for touch-ups. Derek showed up 20 minutes late, apologizing to his phone more than to us. He was handling a work crisis that apparently required constant texting throughout our 2-hour session. I'm a professional. I've shot over 200 weddings. I can make any couple look in love, even when they're clearly not. But something felt off. Madison was performing happiness while Derek was mentally checked out. Still, I got the shots. Beautiful golden hour lighting, perfect composition, all the Pinterest-worthy moments she wanted. 2 weeks later, Madison called me in a panic. The engagement photos were completely wrong. She'd built up this fantasy in her head that didn't match reality. The photos showed exactly what I saw. A woman trying desperately to create perfection with a man who wasn't really present. But you can't Photoshop genuine connection. Can you edit Derek's expression in this one? He looks bored, she said during our revision meeting. And can you make me look happier here? I look stressed. I made the adjustments. Client satisfaction and all that. But I kept the originals. Always do. The real drama started in January. Madison had been messaging me constantly about timeline adjustments, lighting concerns, and inspiration photos she'd found online. Then she dropped the bomb. She wanted to add a second shooter, but reduce my rate. I found someone who will do it for $4,000 less, she said over the phone. If you want to keep the booking, you'll need to match their price and bring an assistant. I explained that my rate reflected 5 years of experience, professional equipment, and the time I'd already invested in planning her wedding. She wasn't having it. You're just the photographer, she said. This is my day. Either you adapt, or I'll find someone who will. That phrase, just the photographer, like I was some random person with a camera instead of the professional documenting the most important day of her life. I stayed professional. I understand if you need to make budget adjustments. I'll refund your deposit, and we can part ways amicably. No, she said. I want those engagement photos. You can't use them in your portfolio either. I'm not advertising for someone so inflexible. This is where it gets interesting. See, Madison had been posting the engagement photos on social media for months. Tagged me in every single one. My watermark was on all of them. She'd been using my work to build her perfect bride image online, gathering thousands of likes and comments. But here's what she didn't know. I'd been photographing weddings in our city for 5 years. I knew people, including Derek's ex-girlfriend, Sarah. Sarah had hired me for her sister's wedding 2 years ago. We'd stayed in touch professionally. She'd seen Madison's engagement photos all over Instagram and reached out with some interesting information. Is that Derek Morrison? She asked when she called. Madison's fiancé? I can't discuss clients, I said. Well, I can discuss Derek, she replied. He's been texting me for months, telling me how he's making the biggest mistake of his life. She sent me screenshots. Messages from Derek saying he felt trapped, that Madison was more in love with the idea of a wedding than with him. He'd been reaching out to Sarah because she actually understood him. I didn't do anything with this information. Not my business. But I kept it in mind. 3 weeks before the wedding, Madison called to fire me. She'd found a photographer willing to work for half my rate. A hungry up-and-comer, she called him. Someone who would prioritize the client's vision. I need those engagement photos for the wedding slideshow, she said. Email them to me today. Actually, per our contract, I retain copyright to all images. I can provide the photos you've already received, but not the raw files or additional edited versions. She lost it, screaming about how she'd made me relevant by featuring my work on her Instagram. how I was sabotaging her dream wedding over technicalities. I stayed calm. I'll refund your deposit minus the engagement session fee, as outlined in our contract. I wish you the best with your new photographer. She hung up on me. 2 days later, Sarah called again. Derek's having second thoughts, she said. He asked me to meet him for coffee. Says he can't go through with the wedding. That's between you and Derek, I said. But I thought you should know, she continued. He's been telling people that Madison is only marrying him for his money, that she's already planning to redecorate his house and quit her job. I thanked her for the information and ended the call. But my photographer brain was working. Derek was about to either run away or make the biggest mistake of his life. Either way, someone was going to need documentation of what happened. I made a decision that would change everything. Update 1. The wedding was on a Saturday in March. Expensive venue, 200 guests, 5-course dinner. Madison had been posting countdown updates daily, showing off her dress, her rings, her perfect vendor team. Her new photographer was a 22-year-old kid named Tyler who'd been shooting weddings for 6 months. Nice enough guy, but he'd never handled a wedding this size or a bride this demanding. I knew this because Tyler had reached out to me for advice 2 weeks before the wedding. He was panicking about the timeline, the lighting in the venue, and Madison's endless list of must-have shots. She wants 847 specific photos, he said. She made a spreadsheet. How is that even possible? I gave him some tips, but warned him that some clients are impossible to please. He was charging $2,000 for an $8,000 job. He was about to learn why there's a difference. The day of the wedding, I wasn't supposed to be there. But I was. See, Derek had hired me for something else entirely. He'd called me 3 days before the wedding. I need to document something, he said. Can you meet me? We met at a coffee shop. Derek looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, hands shaking as he drank his coffee. I'm not going through with the wedding, he said. But I need proof of why. He pulled out his phone and showed me something that made my jaw drop. Madison had been documenting everything about their relationship, but not for sentimental reasons. She'd been building a case for divorce. Screenshots of his bank accounts, photos of his assets, recordings of conversations where he'd mentioned his family's money. She'd been planning to divorce him within 2 years and take half of everything. She doesn't know I found this, Derek said. It's all on her laptop. She's been sloppy about covering her tracks. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I need someone professional to document me calling off the wedding. And I need proof that she's been planning this divorce since before we even got engaged. He was willing to pay me $5,000 to be there when he ended things. To document the truth. I thought about it for exactly 30 seconds. Madison had fired me, insulted my profession, and tried to strong-arm me into working for free. She'd been planning to destroy Derek's life for money. I'll do it, I said. Derek's plan was simple but brutal. He would wait until the moment before the ceremony, when everyone was seated and Madison was about to walk down the aisle. Then he would announce that the wedding was off and explain exactly why. I want her to feel the same humiliation she was planning to put me through, he said. And I want it documented so she can't spin the story later. Update 2. The wedding day arrived. I positioned myself discreetly at the back of the venue with a long lens. Derek had given me a detailed timeline of when everything would happen. Madison looked stunning in her $3,000 dress. Her hair and makeup were flawless. Tyler was running around frantically trying to capture all 847 shots on her list while managing the impossible timeline she'd created. The guests were seated. Madison's family was beaming with pride. Derek's family looked nervous, but that wasn't unusual for weddings. The officiant took his place at the altar. Derek walked down the aisle looking like he was headed to his execution. He stood at the altar, hands clasped behind his back, jaw set with determination. The music started from Madison's entrance. Everyone stood and turned toward the back of the aisle. Madison appeared with her father, radiant and glowing, completely unaware of what was coming. She made it halfway down the aisle before Derek held up his hand. Stop, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. This isn't happening. The music cut off. 200 people went silent. Madison froze in place, her face transforming from joy to confusion to horror in about 3 seconds. Madison, Derek said, his voice carrying across the silent venue. I can't marry someone who's been planning to divorce me before we even say our vows. He pulled out his phone and held it up. Everyone here should know that the woman you're celebrating today has been documenting my assets and planning to leave me within 2 years. She's been recording our conversations and building a case for divorce while pretending to plan our future." Madison's face went completely white. Her father caught her arm as she swayed. The guests started murmuring, then talking louder, then full chaos erupted. "That's not true," Madison screamed. "Derek, you're having a panic attack. Someone call a doctor." But Derek was just getting started. He'd brought printouts of everything. Her divorce planning documents, screenshots of her texts to friends about playing the long game, recordings of her saying she could take him for everything he's worth. "I found all of this on your laptop," Derek said calmly. "The laptop you left open while you were at your bachelorette party. The one where you documented everything about my finances and made a timeline for leaving me." Madison tried to run toward him, but her dress was too big and she nearly tripped. Tyler, the photographer, was standing there with his camera, completely frozen, not taking any pictures. Meanwhile, I was capturing everything from the back of the venue. Derek's moment of truth, Madison's complete breakdown, the guests' shocked reactions, her family's humiliation. "The wedding is off," Derek announced. "Dinner is paid for, so please stay and eat. But I won't be marrying someone who sees me as a paycheck." He walked out through the side door. Madison collapsed in her father's arms, sobbing and screaming about how this was all a misunderstanding. But the damage was done. Half the guests left immediately. The other half stayed for the drama and the free food. Tyler managed to take maybe a dozen photos of the aftermath before Madison's maid of honor told him to stop. I followed Derek outside. He was sitting on a bench, looking relieved for the first time in months. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Like I just saved my life," he said. "Did you get everything?" "Everything," I confirmed. "What's your plan now?" "First, I'm going to give copies of all her divorce planning documents to my lawyer. Then I'm going to take the honeymoon trip to Italy by myself. And then I'm going to find someone who actually loves me instead of my bank account." Update 3. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Madison's maid of honor posted the whole story on social media that night. Someone had recorded Derek's speech on their phone, and it went viral on TikTok within hours. #WeddingExposed was trending by Sunday morning. Madison tried to control the narrative, posting a long Instagram story about Derek's mental health issues and how he'd sabotaged their love story. But her friends had already started sharing their own stories about Madison's gold-digging behavior. Turns out Derek wasn't her first wealthy target. She dated a series of successful men, always with the same pattern: fast track to engagement, obsessive wedding planning, and detailed financial documentation. Sarah, Derek's ex, reached out to me 3 days after the wedding. "Derek called me," she said. "He wanted to thank me for warning him. He also wanted you to know that Madison is threatening to sue you for invasion of privacy." "Let her try," I said. "Derek hired me to document a public event. I have a contract and witnesses." Madison did try to sue me. She claimed I'd invaded her privacy and caused emotional distress. Her lawyer dropped the case after seeing Derek's evidence of her divorce planning. Turns out it's hard to claim emotional distress when you're the one who was planning to commit fraud. The photos I took that day became evidence in Derek's legal case. Madison had to return the engagement ring, repay the money Derek had spent on wedding planning, and sign an agreement not to contact him again. Tyler, the replacement photographer, posted a review of me online. "Wish I'd been as professional as this guy. He knew exactly what he was doing." Meanwhile, Derek sent me a bonus check for $2,000 and a thank you note. "You saved me from the biggest mistake of my life. The photos you took were worth more than any wedding pictures could have been." 3 months later, Derek was dating Sarah again. He'd realized that his boring ex-girlfriend who actually loved him was worth more than an Instagram-perfect woman who saw him as a paycheck. They got engaged on New Year's Eve. Guess who they hired as their wedding photographer? Madison, meanwhile, had moved back in with her parents after being evicted from the apartment Derek had been paying for. She deleted all her social media accounts after the backlash and was apparently working at a retail job while trying to rebuild her life. Her sister reached out to me 6 months later. "Madison asked me to apologize to you," she said. "She knows she treated you badly and she's trying to make amends." "I appreciate that," I said. "But actions have consequences." "She learned that the hard way," her sister replied. "She's in therapy now and working on becoming a better person." I hope that's true. But I also hope she learned that treating people like they're disposable usually backfires spectacularly. As for me, business has never been better. Word got out that I'm the photographer who tells the truth and documents what really happens. I've booked solid for the next 2 years with couples who actually want their real story captured, not some Pinterest fantasy. And every time someone tries to haggle my rates or tells me I'm just the photographer, I think about Madison's face when Derek exposed her plan. Sometimes the best revenge is just being professional enough to capture the truth when it matters most. Derek and Sarah's wedding is next month. It's going to be small, intimate, and completely authentic. She's wearing her grandmother's dress. They're having the reception in Derek's backyard, and the only thing they care about is marrying each other. The difference between a real couple and a performance is obvious through the lens. And this time, I'm documenting a love story that's actually true. Edit. Since everyone's asking, yes, the viral TikTok video is still up and has over 2 million views. Madison's divorce planning documents became a cautionary tale that gets shared in online forums about prenups and gold diggers. And Derek's courage to call off the wedding has inspired at least a dozen other people to share their own stories of escaping toxic relationships. Sometimes the best wedding photos are the ones that prevent a bad marriage from happening in the first place.